Welcome to the Happiness Matters podcast, where we'll explore happiness at work and show you how to coach yourself to be happier there and more successful too, no matter what.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julia Seal and welcome. Welcome to Happiness Matters, where we're discovering how to coach ourselves to our very own happy and successful no matter what. I'm up very early this morning. It's new moon today, and my yoga teacher, who's stuck in Germany through the pandemic, is running a moon sequence class that I want to do. So it's very early. Recently, we've been doing a deep dive into different definitions of happiness, from how scientists are looking at it, the academic fraternity, and to how business sees it. Last week, we looked at the research into our happiness and success at work, the work being done by Gallup and the Great Place to Work. How useful did you find their take on having a best friend at work, or thinking through how much trust exists in your work relationships? This week, we're going to wrap all of this together as we near the end of our Series 1, our defining, assessing, and visioning the happiness and success that we want for ourselves. And we're exploring the concept of a crafted version of happiness. But first, I want to jump right in here now to let you know that today is Pay It Forward Day, and it's Superhero Day too. Fraser and I have been producing this podcast for almost a year, and we'd really appreciate if you'd share this Happiness Matters podcast and the coaching I'm doing here with your colleagues and friends and family that you think would be interested. Pay It Forward Day attempts to create a ripple of kindness across the world. This year, the aim is 10 million acts of kindness. I actually first mentioned Pay It Forward Day on World Smile Day last year in episode 1.15 and 1.16. As I said then, the concept of paying a favor forward as opposed to paying it back has been around since ancient Greece, but it was used most famously by North American author and social reformer Lily Hardy Hammond in her 1916 book, In the Garden of Delight, You Don't Pay Love Back, You Pay It Forward. Currently, 86 countries take part in Pay It Forward Day, and this was all inspired by a woman in the United States who wrote a book about the two strangers who appeared from nowhere to help when her car burst a light in an unsafe area at night. In 2000, Warner Brothers made a movie based on Catherine Ryan Hyde's novel, and you might have seen it, Pay It Forward, and the social movement took off from there. I'll link to the movie and her book, as well as the detail for Pay It Forward Day in this episode's show notes on Happiness-Matters.coach. But the idea behind having a special day like this is to encourage us to embrace the incredible power of giving, to show each other that we care and that there is love, hope, and magic all around us, and to know that we may be only one person in this world, but to one person at one time, we are the world. Isn't this an amazing thing to come around to celebrate, as so many of us are still in the COVID-19 lockdown? Perhaps you're in Europe that's slowly starting to lift restrictions, or you're in Africa where the pandemic is just taking hold. How can each of us pay it forward and spread kindness, sharing what's helping us through this time with others in our global village? An incredible example of Pay It Forward that we were all treated to this last weekend was the huge WHO concert organized by Global Citizen and curated by Lady Gaga, One World Together at Home. Did you watch any of it? I think it was more than 100 musicians playing from their homes for more than 8 hours, with clips from celebrities, doctors, psychiatrists, even SpongeBob SquarePants, all to address COVID-19's effect on us all and to honor the world's healthcare workers. Something similar to Bob Geldof's Live Aid, but for a very different world. And Lady Gaga's piece was really lovely. She sang Smile. Remember my favorite poem in all the world, Smile Awhile, from episode 1.10. I'll post this in the show notes too. Lovely example of pay it forward. And if you missed the concert, I've added it to our Happiness Matters playlist, so you'll also find it on YouTube. Such a beautiful thing in strange times. And today is also Superhero Day. I think the WHO, the One World Concert, and our healthcare workers really are our 2020 superheroes, aren't they? There are so many real-life superheroes amongst us at the moment. Like World War II veteran Captain Tom Moore in the UK. He wanted to raise funds, about £1,000 was his aim, for the UK's National Health Service to say thank you for the recent care he'd received. And he planned to walk 100 laps before his 100th birthday, which is at the end of this month. So he's already done this, walking through a guard of honour by his 1st Battalion Yorkshire Regiment, and so far has managed to raise more than £23 million. Just astounding. A superhero in times of war and in times of peace and pandemic. In South Africa, our own superhero is Professor Salim Abdul Karim, an epidemiologist and infectious diseases specialist with particular expertise in TB and HIV. Actually, he's the chair of the UNAIDS Scientific Expert Panel, of the WHO's HIV Strategic and Technical Advisory Committee, and of the WHO's TB/HIV Task Force. An incredible man that we in South Africa are lucky enough to have chairing the Ministerial Advisory Committee on COVID-19. We're in great leadership hands. So who's your superhero today? Is it still Wonder Woman and Linda Carter from the 1980s? Or is it someone in your home, your community? Let's pay forward what they've done for us today. Okay, back to our coaching. Let's take what we've learned from the science of happiness, from the academic and business worlds, and let's also take what we've learned about happiness definitions from around the world and through history, from all our earlier episodes, even what we've learned from exploring our negative emotions, and put it all together into our own crafted version of happiness, artisanal happiness, Shokunin happiness. Let's look at artisanal and what I mean when I say we're creating artisanal happiness at Happiness Matters. What does artisanal actually mean? It's a word we're seeing everywhere, isn't it? Originally, in medieval times certainly, artisans produced consumer goods. So this was before the Industrial Revolution. And they were not unskilled laborers, but rather masters, those who owned their business, as in master craftsmen, or apprentices, or journeymen who didn't own their own businesses. So think about furniture making, sculpture, clothing, jewelry. Even mining by hand is referred to as artisanal mining. The United Nations has defined it as products that are produced by artisans, either completely by hand or with the help of hand tools, or even mechanical means, as long as the direct manual contribution of the artisan remains the most substantial component of the finished product. And the special nature of artisanal products derives from their distinctive features, which can be utilitarian, aesthetic, artistic, creative, culturally attached, decorative, functional, religiously and socially symbolic, and significant. And nowadays, it's become a catch-all phrase, a marketing buzzword for individually crafted, handmade, high-quality, unique items in small quantities. Another buzzword, just like organic and all natural. In fact, the marketing use of the word artisan is now even called artisan washing. Being Scottish, my husband Fraser has a love of Scotch eggs and eats a couple a day when we're over visiting family and friends, and he's usually happy with Tesco's. But last year when we were in London, he got to try artisanal Scotch eggs. And he did turn his nose up at the idea of it because he doesn't like marketing jargon. But he had to admit that these ones were particularly delicious. And you'll know it from food like artisan cheese, bread, pickles, salt, chocolate, olive oil, ice cream, meat, vinegars, or from the world of baristas, coffee, or from alcohol, craft beer or craft gin. The search for how to make your own alcohol has become one of the most searched phrases on Google in South Africa, spiking up by 500% on the night our president announced lockdown and the ban on all alcohol. Back in 2012, Time magazine pointed out that using the word artisan to describe convenience food was shameless marketing, one big hoax. And journalist Jen Dole from the Atlantic Wire declared the word dead, writing a very amusing obituary. Although she had to resurrect him a year later, artisanal, because the word is not dead. As she said, a long, long time ago, like last year, I wrote an obituary for the word artisanal. It seemed high time to declare it dead and get on with our lives. And yet it has become clear in the months that have followed that artisanal is not dead. Artisanal may instead be undead. And it's really not dead. We have the fancy toast trend in San Francisco, or artisanal cocktail ice. Musicians have gone artisanal, and you'll have seen that from the One World concert. Musicians playing from their homes, some just sitting on their unmade beds. Even fashion is hanging on. John Galliano recently launched the Maison Margiela Spring-Summer 2020 artisanal collection. And he says, it identifies the nature of the bourgeois gesture and investigates the impact of heritage codes in the age of the cyber-industrial revolution. So why are we keeping it, and why am I using it here today in our self-coaching? From an anthropological point of view, it's very interesting to see why the idea of handmade, crafted, artisanal is so appealing. There's a good study on the 10 cultural components of the artisanal movement, which I'll link to in the show notes as it's too long to go into here. What we're after at Happiness Matters is a definition of what happy and successful, no matter what, means to you, an artisanal definition. Since the beginning of Series 1, Defining, Assessing and Visioning, I have been encouraging you to think deeply about what happiness and success really mean to you. I've been inviting you to create a robust definition of your happiness, one that's worth your while pursuing and directing your life towards. Remember, we all want happiness. It is what we all search for. Aristotle said 2,300 years ago, happiness is the meaning and purpose of life. The whole aim and end of human existence, everything that we choose for the sake of something else, everything except happiness. David Hume, one of the most influential of the Enlightenment philosophers from Scotland, said the great end of all human industry is the attainment of happiness. For this were arts invented, sciences cultivated, laws ordained, and societies modeled. In 1776, Thomas Jefferson, the founding father of the United States of America, wrote the Declaration of Independence that states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And the Dalai Lama, leader of Tibet and Tibetan Buddhism, says, whether one believes in religion or not, whether one believes in this religion or that religion, the very purpose of our life is happiness. The very motion of our life is towards happiness. So Series 1 and these last few episodes on the science of happiness have all been about creating this robust version of your happiness, one that you can commit to creating for yourself. A definition that is based on solid research, that's not one-sided or limited, based only on what you're finding difficult or unpleasant in your life right now. So a definition that is well worth your while, well worth your life. Often what happens in a midlife crisis, somewhere around 50, you might realize that you've spent the bulk of your life doing things, pursuing goals that haven't led you to happiness, chasing rainbows. Even artist Damien Hurst's beautiful COVID-19 rainbows. You've centered your whole life on an unclear definition of your happiness and success. Perhaps it's not even been of your own design. And remember, our lives change dramatically over this time. Our kids leave home, we get divorced, we look for new ways to create meaning, happiness, contribution, and success in our lives. So is your happiness artisanal? Is it personally crafted, handcrafted by you, or have you just picked up ideas from your childhood, your cultural upbringing, the media? So is it made by hand by you, or is your idea of happiness the equivalent of an industrial mass process? Is it something you've done intentionally and on purpose? Have you thoroughly looked at your definition, taken it to pieces, and now created this special and unique version of happiness that you take pride in? Are you deeply connected to your definition of happiness and success? Is your definition of happiness and success based on your own core values or on someone else's? It's just the way it's done around here. Or this is what the experts say, so it must be the same for me. Do you know where the elements of your definition come from? How transparent is your definition to you? It might be flawed, and someone else might not like your definition or agree with it, but it's bespoke. How beautiful is it? How meaningful, purposeful, heartwarming, exciting, inspiring is your version of happy and successful no matter what? In case you've forgotten what we chatted about and coached over the last couple of episodes, I've created an artisanal happiness checklist for you, just to make sure that you cover all the things we've talked about already, as well as your own ideas. This is another of my free coaching tools for you that you can download from our website, Happiness-Matters.coach, from either this episode's show notes or from the fun and free section. Now, we can even go a step further. You can think about your definition of happiness as Shokunin. In Japan, Shokunin is an artisan or craftsman. Think about the art of flower arrangement or the tea ceremony. My very first corporate job was with a Japanese company. I've been fascinated by the tea ceremony for years. But Shokunin is more than just artisanal. It's about mastery of one's profession, taking pride in one's own work, its discipline and skill, its immense concentration and patience. And it's even more than that. It's a way of life, a way of thinking, a personal characteristic that affects every interaction that you have in the world. Shokunin Tashio Odate, famous for his exquisite woodwork, says a shokunin, from the bottom of his or her heart, is to serve society. Every profession has social obligations and responsibilities, and the shokunin's social responsibility is to fulfill society's demands as best they know how. Shokunin means not only having technical skill, but implies an attitude of social consciousness, a social obligation to work our best for the general welfare of people. both a material and spiritual obligation to others. So finding the balance in our creations of happiness and success with a dedication to giving back to our community or helping enhancing the lives of others. Something similar to the Buddhist idea of bodhisattva. So here in our self-coaching, as we finalize our very own definitions of happiness and success no matter what, tap into your own Shokunin kishitsu, your artisan spirit, the craftsman's spirit. How are you using your mastery, the mastery of the life you've lived so far, to unlock your potential for happiness and success? How is happiness a discipline for you, something you attend to every day with care? How is your happiness, your pursuit of happiness and success at work and in life, impacting others' lives and even impacting our planet Earth? Is it contributing to the happiness and welfare of others? To wrap up today's session, I want to remind you of the recent episode on power and powerlessness. In episode 1.31, we coached on regaining our power in toxic relationships. It would be useful if you go back and listen to this again, thinking about where the power lies as you finalize your definition of happiness and success no matter what. Here are some reminders from that episode. Stepping out of the drama triangle and the roles of victim or persecutor. This sees us stepping away from needing external sources of power to feel better and get what we want in our lives, stepping away from external sources for our happiness and success. Then finding our inner power, what this actually means, and then how to build our inner power, how to coach our own powerlessness. We look at the choices you have in your life every day, the 3 inner choices that we all have in any moment for our entire lives to build our inner power, our inner wisdom, and our happiness and success. And then there's also my free coaching tool, High Road, Low Road, to support you in this. So the question now becomes, how much power do you have in crafting your own happiness, your own version of happiness and success no matter what? Is it dependent on your external world changing, an outer source of power? Should your husband change or your kids for you to be happy at home? Should your company or manager be doing something different for you to be happy and successful at work? As you define your artisanal happiness, your Shokunin happiness, where does the power lie for that version? Inside you, or depending on others, on a world outside of you that is out of your control? Is your artisanal happiness making you more or less powerful in your life? And where are you handing your power over in your definition? And lastly, if I can touch on menopause in midlife again here. The menopause itself is another huge phase of change we go through. Like puberty and pregnancy, our bodies and brains go through profound changes. And these changes spark yet more change, emotional, mental, and the structures of our lives. So much change actually, that the menopause transition is the most incredible opportunity to use as a metamorphosis experience for yourself. Our very being, our very wiring is supporting us to do this. Biochemical and physical changes, and the big life events like death and divorce and retirement, and our emotional experiences over this period are actually setting us up for change to be easier than ever. The midlife transition is your best opening for this work, the best you've ever had in your life, to build your inner power and to craft your artisanal Shokunin happiness. why not jump on a coaching call with me to talk about how we can coach together to craft your own version of happiness and success, how to create your artisanal Shokunin happiness. My free 20-minute insight sessions gives us the chance to explore coaching together. And you can book these from our website, Happiness-Matters.coach, by clicking on the yellow button right at the top called Coach with Julia. So that was fun, wasn't it? I trust you enjoyed it, and we'll sit down with my coaching tool, the Happiness Checklist, later this week. Please remember to share our podcast with anyone who might benefit. This is our Shokunin, and we'd so appreciate you paying it forward. Now next week, it's our first birthday. International Workers' Day has come around again, and we've been podcasting for a whole year. It'll be a fun one next week, so I can't wait to be with you again. May you be happy. May you be free. There is no better time to do this coaching together. Bye for now from lockdown in Cape Town, considering our post-COVID happiness.
Thanks for joining us on this Happiness Matters podcast. Do join us again here next week on Tuesday. You can subscribe to this series at Apple Podcasts on iTunes, or you can sign up for it on our website, Happiness-Matters.coach. That's Happiness-Matters.coach. COACH. Also, you can join our conversation on Facebook by following us there. Our Facebook page is also Happiness-Matters.coach.